Hello, hello, hello. I am tardy to my live stream and I am so sorry for that. Uh, I had some commitments that just ran way too overtime. So I apologize for that, but I'm here and I am ready to talk about this topic. I don't know if you caught my video. A couple of days ago, I was talking about African Americans, sort of the dysphoria that I feel like is going on within the Black community, this identity crisis that I feel like is happening within, Black America proper. And some of the talking points that I mentioned was the fact that some people are offended when you call them Black. They're offended when you say that they're associated with the Black community. And some people have this sense of individualism versus tribalism. And I respect all of those viewpoints, by the way. I feel like people should think, how they want to about things, and it's their business and nobody else's. But I think, in terms of like identity, you know what I mean? It's one of those things that I constantly keep hearing these conversations as I listen to discussions within the Black community. So I was listening to one person talk about, African and Caribbean people. And she was talking about the fact that people who were born to slaves, that they pretty much, this country was built on their backs and we paved the way for these descendants, or I'm sorry, these immigrant Blacks who have come here in the last 20 to 60 years. And I often, and I guess that's why people don't want to have this sense of Black community, because you have these Caribbean immigrant African Blacks who come here, and they do very well, by the way. Like, there is no denying the fact that immigrant Blacks do much better than Native Black Americans. And there's a variety of different reasons for that, namely because they come here with a sense of structure and that they are not marred by the systemic rhetoric that Native Black Americans or descendants of slaves, you may see the acronym ADOS, which is African Descendants of Slaves, that we come with, right? Because, from the time we're little, we are taught that, all kinds of things about our history that are skewed to make us feel like we're marginalized. And these immigrant Blacks, they have not been subjected to that. So obviously they come to America with the mindset of living the American dream. They have this idea. Oh my God, seriously? Like, these people package this stuff so Jesus. But they come here with this sense of what it takes to succeed in America. I'm on time now. No, you know what? I'm late. So what's up, my friend? What's up, Travis? I'm talking about, these arguments within the Black community. And, what I've been doing is I've been sitting back and I've just been listening to people and all the respective identity crises, because I do believe that the Black segment of America is in a state of crises. And it's because I feel like we have all these different ethnic Black backgrounds, all these different ideas of sovereignty Blacks. And, I'm hearing all kinds of people talk about acronym to make them victims. I don't know. Here's the thing. I understand that within America, within the Black segment of America, it is comprised of different cultures and ideologies. And, within that mixture, you have the Native Blacks, you have the Caribbean Blacks, you have the African Blacks, and they're all coming with this different idea of America. Now, I have always grown up, and if you are African, I apologize. This is just what I have been told about y'all. Let me fix my camera for a second here. It's bugging me. This is just what I have been told about y'all. Like, I've always been taught that Africans who immigrate to America did not really care for Native Black or ADOS Blacks, because they never liked the fact that we were addicted to, this rhetoric about our community instead of being successful in this country, and in their minds being here with their Black faces as well, sort of lumps them up into those narratives as well as the Black segment. So I've always been told that, like, Caribbean and African Blacks that come to America, they don't care for, the mindset of the Native Black, and so therefore they don't want to be associated with it. And so when, I kind of bring a lot of these arguments home, it sort of makes sense to me now why some people are like, I'm not Black, I don't want to be associated with Black, because a lot of these people, at the heart of them, they don't come from families, they may be first generation here, or they may be an immigrant themselves. So it kind of, to me, from a psychological standpoint, it almost makes sense that, when people are talking about Black people hate people, and, even with Candace Owens, what the Republicans did is the Republicans understood this rift between the African, Afro Black, Native Black segment in America. They recognized this, and that's why they propped up Candace Owens. Because the first thing Candace Owens did was start touting her Caribbean heritage. I'm Caribbean, and she started comparing Caribbean Blacks to Native Blacks. So when you think about people like Candace Owens, for example, the people that are pro Candace Owens are typically the segment of Black America that have immigrated from here. They're not ADOS at all. And that was completely intentional, that they would prop up Candace Owens like that for the Republicans, so that she could target these African Caribbean Blacks who run with the mindset that Native Blacks don't appreciate what they have in America. And this is how the Republican Party plays the race card just as much as the Democratic Party. People are just not intelligent enough sometimes to dig in and look at how they play their schemes too. Candace Owens, if you go back to her Twitter feeds, touted and talked about how she's researching Black people and how Caribbean Blacks, and she was even talking about how she was proud to be a Caribbean Black, right? In comparison to Native Blacks. So the Republicans are playing the card of playing the African Caribbean Blacks against the Native Blacks. And I just sit back and listen to these conversations and why so many people are in their feelings and why people kind of come at each other the way they do about these arguments. And people don't even realize that, like I said, if Black people don't address our issues, somebody's going to leverage them. If we don't change our mindset, our point of view, and our perceptions, somebody's going to leverage them. As a Black American, I find it odd that other Black people in the Dysphoria don't create the same opportunities in their home country and criticize Black American. Right, they come in here. Right. But, here's the thing. Some of them don't have the same opportunities in their own countries. That's why they're coming to America. And the difference between these people, if you look in any area in this country, whether it's STEM, whether it's medical, you will see that the African and the Caribbean segment of the Black segment of America, they dominate. They do much better than Native Blacks. But again, they're coming with a different mindset than these Native Blacks. But I definitely think that Native Blacks need to hear what they are saying too, because in a way, I don't, necessarily disagree with an African Caribbean migrant Black in this segment, saying, I don't want to be lumped up with that bullshit because these people can't get over the past. They're allowing their past to be leveraged time and time again for the same damn thing, and they not even doing nothing different. We are smarter than that, and these people tend to be, very conservative in their mindset. So there is a disparity, I think, between these African descendants of slave blacks and these immigrant blacks, where the immigrant blacks have the ingredients to succeed in America, and they don't want to be lumped up with those who have been infiltrated with the seeds of being not successful and marginalized. I really do believe that's, really what the rift is within the black segment of America. And then people are playing on these rifts too, because it's like, again, we don't have to be unified. We don't have to be tribal. We don't even have to consider ourselves a community, but what we really should try to do is try to coexist within a unit, as a people that sort of look similar, maybe come from different heritage. Because again, I am a native black, and somebody even tried to tell me that because I'm a descendant of slave, they talking about all the Native American black people. Like, I guess they got all these little sects and tribes and, Geechees and all this shit. And they're like, well, we were here, we've been here, and like even we are visitors. So it's like the black dysphoria is real fucked up. It's like somebody want to be the sovereign black up in this motherfucker for real. It's like you got all these people, we're pure. We're pure people. We're pure. And it's like, okay, well, I know for sure I'm not pure. And I would venture to say that most black people in America, if you're a native black, which is most black people, you're not pure. You're not pure. You're not pure. I already know that I have dominantly African heritage, but there's also that Irish heritage, and both of my parents come from those lineages. Both of the primary Irish families that came here, they got both of their last names. So it's like nobody, I'm a native black, I consider, because again, I would be a descendant of a slave. Maybe, possibly, I don't know. It's like, shit, like at this point, I don't even know if I'm a descendant of slavery, to be honest with y'all. Because I don't know if like one of my people migrated here and they were never part of that slave proper. I really don't know. Like, how could any black person know if they're a descendant of slavery? I would say that we all kind of go back and have our roots can be traced back to Africa. But at the same time, there were slaves being sold all over the damn place. And then people were traveling and migrating and immigrating here. And it's like, who's to say that I was not the product of an immigrant that came here? You know what I mean? Instead of criticizing black Americans, they should show how to do things better in their own home. And and I would love to see that. My thing with, with the Africans, you know what I mean? And I don't really hear this as much. I don't really rock with a lot of Africans either, though. But I know, and it's so funny that I just said that I don't really rock with the Africans, as if like they're like a totally different other group than black people. So I feel like it's almost like this, damn, even when I talk about Caribbean people, I really don't consider them like my people. And that's messed up to even think like that. Like when I think about like my people, I think about people who have been in this country for generations and have gone through the pangs and struggles of this nation. You know what I mean? And somebody please correct me on that. I'm open, I am humble, and if I'm looking at this wrong, because I love all of my people. Let me get like black, white, Puerto Rican, Haitian, whatever. I love all of my people. If you're a Christian, you one of my brothers. If you're a follower of Christ and you're a good follower of Christ, you one of my brothers. But when I'm thinking from a tribal social standpoint, it's really messed up, because I really do look at the Africans separately and anybody else that immigrated to this country. And so maybe that's the conversation that black people should start having too, is how are we looking at each other? Because society is lumping us all up together, right? But each one of us are saying we got our own identities, and I don't want to be black. Call me Caribbean American, call me African American. And what's fucked up is Charlize Theron is African American and she white as hell. Instead of criticizing, okay, right, absolutely. Man, I love your channel. Like, for real. I mean, this is the real shit, though. It's like, I want us to think deeply. So please help me out. Tiff, Travis, y'all my 100s. Am I looking at this wrong? Like, how can I, really expand my mind to look at, from a social political side, look at African and Haitians as not just these other people. Like, because that's kind of how, and I'm admitting my flaw right now, y'all. I'm not perfect. I literally just thought about it. I don't really consider everybody black in this country my people. I really don't. Like, I feel like, and I hate to have a us versus them mindset, but I really don't consider everybody black in this country my people. Like, and I can't really explain why. I really can't explain why, other than the fact that native blacks earned their stripes. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't even know if it's earned their stripes for what, to be the top black people in this country. I'm not even sure where I'm going with it, because it's such a really, like, I'm not sure if I'm being ignorant, thinking that way, that like, not from a social perspective of the idea of my people, I don't consider every black person in this country my people. Like, only the people that are descendants of the struggle. That's fucked up, y'all. Help me out. Please correct me. Please correct me, y'all. I mean, and this is my retrospect now I'm coming to, that, not everyone in this country are our people. And I think within, these people that look alike, you have different people. You have the people that went through the struggle in this country, who are descendants of the struggle in this country. And then you have the people who took advantage of that after they went through it. And I'm one of those people, like I don't cleave on to slavery. I don't cleave on to past pangs and transgressions, to inhibit me from actualizing myself. But, when I think about it, people who, like, I was listening to Vicky Dillard, right? And she made such a fly Nubian queen, right? And she made a really interesting statement, because she was talking about Nicki Minaj fixing her lips to tell a black American man how to brand his product. And she's pretty much she accused Michael B. Jordan of cultural appropriation, but Nicki Minaj is not from here. And Vicky Dillard said something that I will never forget. And this is what really got my mind spinning about this conversation. She was like, "You are in our house." And I had to step back and think about that, what she meant. And then she started going into the fact that these Caribbean and these Africans, these blacks that have come here in the last 20 to 60 years, they have benefited from the struggles of blacks that have been here. And so, but at the same time, you can't throw shade on them, because they have benefited from the struggles of the blacks that have been here, but the blacks that are here are not benefiting from the struggles of the people that have been here. And they're like, well, shit, if y'all not going to do it, we will. So I don't throw shade on the African and Caribbean people. I don't disrespect them. I just don't really consider them my people. Like, and that's something that I need to be adjusted, obviously. Did you come across Africans when you were recruiting engineers? I did. I worked with a Nigerian guy. I had some friends from Niger, like, around, but, and I wouldn't even call them friends. They were more like associates, like friends of friends. They was cool people, but, they were a different culture than me. Like they were not the same culture as me. Like I even had the Nigerian dude who was my student assistant when I was working in higher education. He was acting like he didn't want to do something I asked him to do, and I was trying to be respectful. And he's like, he said something weird out of like in my country, something about what I wouldn't be allowed to do, and I'm like, baby, we an American. Don't put that African shit on me. I'm sorry. No disrespect to the Africans, but don't be African over in this America with them ideas. Come on now. That's the only thing I request. Don't be expecting an African out of this American. All right, because I'm not cut from that cloth. I'm not cut from your values. And, I think that's where, from a cultural standpoint, that's where we some of us cross the line, True, Andrew. The vast majority of Blacks' great-grandparents never knew of any African or met one. We never really knew Africans until the 1980s. Honestly, I never even thought about it until coming to America, to be honest with you. Maybe that was the Democrats' subliminal way of putting everybody up on game. Look, we about to get a whole see that? As soon as I mention the Democrats, they like, oh my God, turn her off. Turn her off. She's mentioning us. Am I still on, you guys? Because they just totally blinked out when I mentioned those little Devilcrats. But hopefully this is not being choppy. But yeah, I agree with you, Chip. I really did not, really grow up really being exposed to, and maybe I did have a lot of, some Africans, I would see them, but they were like foreigners to me. Like Africans and Caribbeans were like foreigners to me. You know what I mean? That's how I've always looked at them. I didn't ever look at them as like my brothers. And I know that's messed up to say, but I really, and it's messed up because I just started thinking about this, y'all. I never even thought about the fact that, why is, because I've been hearing all these conversations in the Black community. I'm like, why is there such disparity? And I'm telling you, when I look back, it's like you got the Hispanic, Latino Blacks, and you got all these mixtures of Black people, and they're all having these conversations of identity and dysphoria. And I'm sitting back like, damn, let me think about my own Black identity. And I'm thinking about the fact that, okay, I believe that I might be a descendant of slaves. We've had generations of Blacks in my family. My mom and my dad, they can trace the Black people from our family back in this country very far back, so, but I could, come from a line of Blacks who might have immigrated here. I don't know. We don't have any immigrant values at all. No Afro-Caribbean values at all. So I'm pretty sure we're Native Black Americans, descendants of slaves, ADOS. Most of the Africans in slavery went to South America. A lot of us were already here. That's why we really never knew them or knew of them. And I heard and I've been hearing that too, that there were Blacks already in North America. And I guess this is where these superior, true Native Blacks, I'm coming from some Native American tribe Blacks, these people. And my grandmother, she looked like a damn Indian. She had strawberry red hair. They were from Winston-Salem. And I'm adopted, so this is not my natural grandmother, but everybody in their family looks like Native American people. It is uncanny, but they're Black people. They're Black people. And, I'm pretty sure she comes from descendants of Native Black people. But, I all I can say is that, the arguments within the Black space, the Black segment, and when I say Black segment, I'm talking about Caribbean, African, Native Blacks, and whoever else that might be Black coming up in here. It's an interesting conversation that I feel like we should have, because I think that maybe some of our issues, root cause, and the identity and the dysphoria of Black people come from the fact that we got way too many Black people, who really aren't native Blacks. There's a lot of not native Black people talking about Black American native Black issues. And, like I said, no, and I think the Caribbean Blacks feel like they can talk about them because they get lumped up into them. Like America doesn't see a Caribbean Black man or an African Black man or a native Black man. They just see a Black man, and that's where, this cultural identity, kind of lumps us all up into this idea of brethren, when really, even within the Black community, we're looking like we're not brothers. Like, and it's like, even with African Blacks, it's like, I like the culture. I'm interested in African culture. I have, some kente cloth type stuff, African garb. I can get down with their food, but I feel like, exploring African culture for me is equivalent to exploring any other foreign culture. It's not Black American culture to me. They talk about our issues, but they can't fix problems at home. It really ticks me off. I think the reason why my immigrant Blacks talk about Native or Black issues, in my opinion, is because they're tired of being lumped up into the Black segment of America, where they came here to have the American dream, and a lot of them structure their kids to achieve it. They focus on education, they focus on structure family, they focus on things that Native Blacks don't focus on as a community. Like when I think about the Black community, I'm thinking about Native Blacks. I'm not talking about all the other people who came here. When I think of the Black community, and is this fair to say, I'm thinking about ADOS Blacks, descendants of slave Blacks. Those are, when I say Black community, and everybody else is just visitors, or, they immigrated here and now they're just them that happen to get lumped up. But we all get lumped up because of the pigment of our skin, for obviously statistical purposes, I suppose. But it's interesting, but again, I don't know if they can fix their problems in their home country, or if they just see America as a place to seize better opportunity than their own country. Because a lot of Africans want to come to America. That's the fucked up thing about it. Native Black Americans are the ones that are all fucked up right now. We the ones all twisted in our brain. Talking about we hate America, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. Where all these Caribbean Blacks, all them coming over and stuff like that, they're just like, America is a crappy place, but obviously we're smart enough to see that you guys haven't taken control over your narrative. And unfortunately, because we look just like y'all asses, we get lumped up in those things too. And that's that shit we don't like. And I think that's how the African and Caribbeans feel, personally. I really do feel like that. I'm salty about this topic because if they could do better, they would have done it. But here's the thing, but Tiff, don't be mad. Don't be mad, okay? Listen, Linda. Listen, Linda, don't be mad, okay? Smile. Because the thing is, again, they come here with a totally different mindset than what Native Blacks have. And so they're able to excel beyond some of us because they have not been marginalized with critical theories and what I consider generational rhetoric, where they had their older folks, their elders, reminding them about marginalization and how America has turned its back on Black people, right? They're not getting that. They're not being force-fed that. The only thing they know is the Black blueprint of success, meaning that we got to come here, we got to stick together, guys. We got to make sure we get educated so that we can compete. And actually, so they're coming here to compete. Native Blacks are comfortable. We don't think that it is like a lot of Native Blacks, in my opinion, they have either been subverted into believing that they can compete in the capital system, or they have been subverted into just a lifestyle of welfare state, and this is not all Native Blacks, because obviously, you have your centers of influences within the Native Black community. But when you think about, the mindset of the Black community, and the success of the Black community, only about 8% of Blacks in this country, or those considered Blacks, are millionaires. Now, if you were to break up that 8%, I wonder how many of those Blacks would be immigrant Blacks. I mean, because if you look at even in government, both on the Democrat side and the Republican side, they leverage immigrant Blacks to represent the Black community. They do it all the time. God bless Nelson Mandela and South Africans. They have something to be proud about. They fought. And most don't even come here because they actually did the work. I don't know. That's a really interesting point. That's a very interesting point, too. Can I read it again? God bless Nelson Mandela and South Africans. They have something to be proud about. They fought, and most don't even come here because they actually did the work. Damn. South Africans are fine. Some of them, they got some fine ass brothers over there. I might want to go to South Africa one day. Yeah. But, wow, that's an interesting point. I'm going to have to write, it's like a case study because, when I think about it, I don't see a lot of South African immigrants. Like, at all. Like, that's a really interesting point. There are not a lot of South African immigrants because they put in the work in their own country. And here's the thing. I don't care about anybody, coming to America for better opportunities if we can afford it and you actually have a skill and capability to contribute to this country. Me personally, I feel like America has achieved diversity and we have done all that stuff. And I personally don't believe that we need to accept any more immigrants at all. And I think that's where, a lot of these immigrant Blacks and Native Blacks, we differ. Because Native Blacks don't want more immigrants. They don't lobby for it. They don't care about it. Whereas your immigrant Blacks, and that's why you have your immigrant Blacks that just love to just hurry up and get into Congress so that they can push dumbass immigration laws. Like, look, if you got a whole segment of your people talking about they hungry, they ain't got jobs, we can't afford more immigrants. We can't. Sorry, we can't. We cannot. You got to take care of home first. And it's not about being inhumane. But the United States of America should not be accepting any more immigrants. We can't take care of the people that's already here. It'd be dumb. Black Americans shouldn't donate to Africa. Girl, Tiffany, you killing me. You are so passionate about this shit right now. Black Americans shouldn't donate to Africa unless it's for humanitarian purposes. Since they're so smart and focused, they can fix the issues in Africa, one would think. You are right, but I think that, some Africans are seeking asylum from situations that maybe we don't know about in their countries. And maybe they see America, having the liberties that we currently have as maybe an option, for them. You really into your feelings about these immigrant Blacks. My girl, it's okay. It's okay. But, for those of you who are joining, we're talking about, And honestly, like I said, with the Republicans and the Democrats, they have both figured out a way to leverage Black people in some way. So the Democrats, they love to leverage the Native Blacks' struggles, pains, and transgressions, right? And then what the Republicans have figured out is that they can leverage the Caribbean, African immigrant Blacks who were more conservatives. That's why Candace Owens' ass came out of nowhere, because they realize that there is this conversation among these Black people in America, and that all Black people don't consider themselves Black, nor do they consider themselves part of the Black community. And from my understanding, I understand this to be true because, like, in my personal experience, I consider myself a native Black American. I can trace my lineage of people pretty far back in this country. We weren't immigrants, right? And so, from my perception, the only individuals that I believe is part of my community in terms of the Black community are individuals who were descendants of slaves. And I honestly believe that I look at immigrant Blacks as just what they are. They're immigrants. They just happen to look like us, like African Caribbeans. But I don't throw shade on those communities. Like, I respect their cultures. I will enjoy their food. I will enjoy their music and break bread with these people. But it's almost like I'm not really dealing with, from a social perception or social viewpoint. I'm not really dealing with one of my, you know, fellow Black Americans. I'm dealing with a foreign Black or Black person that happens to be in America now, but their culture is totally different than mine. And when you break it down, Native Black Americans really don't have a culture. We don't have a culture. Hip hop is not the Native Black American culture. It can't be actually anymore. If we want to save our Black men's lives, hip hop can't be the culture of Black Americans. You know what I mean? And that's where Black Americans need to start owning their narrative. Girl, have a drink something. I know this is a passion, and you know what? Here's the thing, though. Your reaction, and even some people that I've been talking to about this topic, I did not realize how sensitive even some Native Black people are about this conversation of how to identify people. Like they are straight up like, if you are not a descendant of the struggles of slaves, you are not a part of the Black community. And that's a fair argument, you know what I mean? But on the flip side, the immigrant Blacks are saying, we're really not trying to be a part of that community because y'all addicted to slavery, pangs, and transgressions, and we ain't with the shits. And unfortunately, because we look like y'all asses, we get lumped up into this bullshit all the same. So I understand why, it doesn't really sit well with them either, So everybody got their feelings about this shit. What do you think? Anybody got any thoughts about this? Are you an African, Caribbean, Native Black person? Do you find these arguments to be productive? Do you think that we should be having these conversations so we can understand each other more, or at least how we perceive each other? Because, I'll be honest with you, until I started talking about this, I never realized the feelings of, individuals within the Black segment of America, by culture, by native, or by nationality. I never realized how much people actually feel strongly about these topics, that immigrant Blacks are not Native Blacks and they're not part of the Black community. Some people really do feel that way. And when I really put it, in perspective and how I look at immigrant Blacks, I'm like, yeah, you look like me. We probably come from the same heritage in some way, right? But you're like a foreigner, like you're a foreigner Black, which is not a negative thing. It's just that I don't consider those people part of the Black community. I think, the descendants of slaves and the people who have actually helped develop this country are, Black community official. And it may be ignorant to even think of it in that context. But then again, how do you segment Black people? Because here's the thing, America is going to lump us all up together, whether we like it or not. So how you want to personally identify yourself is cool. But at the end of the day, when they got you checking boxes and stuff like that, most of the time they're going to be like, African American, African, some job applications will be more inclusive and at the Caribbean or some other little thing. But for the most part, they gonna lump us up as Black and or descent. So we are Black though to them. Now to us individually, obviously there is some disparities. So hopefully this conversation was enlightening to some people. It looks like we're about 40 minutes in. Anybody have any questions? I'm still learning about the different discussions between African descendants of slaves versus the immigrant Blacks and these conversations that everybody is having. But if I were to sort of summarize some of the beefs between these Black groups in America, I would kind of summarize it as saying, we've gone through generations, 400 years of just, systemic racism and systemic this and systemic this, and we have all these reasons to crutch on to the experiences of other people so that we don't create our own. And then these immigrant Blacks are like, okay, we're going to come to America and take your jobs. We're going to educate ourselves. We're going to structure our families. And we're going to be conservative because conservatism is sort of the ideal way for actualized people to go. And while you guys are crying about that shit, we're going to do all that. But on the flip side, Black American people, we're getting, and damn, I'm talking white for these Caribbeans shit. I don't know how to talk Caribbean, y'all, so I'm not even about to try, but and I don't want to be culturally appropriating these people. But it's like, I really do feel like these people are saying, we don't want to be lumped up in y'all shit. Y'all haven't reconciled y'all past to be great, and we gonna come up in y'all shit and be great. You should do an interview with Kwame Brown. I'd be interested in doing an interview with Kwame Brown. It's hard to get on that guy's podcast, man. It's like calling into Kwame Brown's podcast. It's like calling into like a fucking trying to win tickets on the radio. You just be like, do. And then like after like 100 times you try, you just like, man, fuck it, it's not in the cards. That's kind of how I with Kwame Brown. But I'd be interested because there's a lot of conversations with these Native American Blacks too. I gotta add them motherfuckers in here too because they feel like they got some sovereignty. It's so funny. You got Native American Blacks, these people that would be people who were within the ancestral groups of my grandmother and the people in her family or whatever, and then you got your immigrant Blacks. The Native American Blacks, they feel supreme, like they're like, we're the Optimus Prime Blacks up in here because we've been here before you was sold or stolen. Because some of us were stolen, some of us were sold. We were here. So there are Blacks who feel like we were here before before people like me and my descendants even got here. So there's all these Optimus Prime Blacks. You got your Native American Blacks and all they little rhetoric around their supremacy. Then you got your Native Blacks and, they tend to be committed to struggle, but at the same time, they feel like they deserve to be committed to struggle because they've been through the struggle and they're the descendants of struggles. Then you have the immigrant Blacks who is like, please don't lump us up with these motherfuckers because we coming up in here to really make a difference and take their jobs, the ones that they won't actualize themselves to get. And I get them too, because, a lot of them are doing their things in big spaces in this country, and they should not have to be lumped up with the Black struggle. Yet here all of our Black asses are lumped up together in America. And that's just word 100. My mother cried with a face full of tears when South Africa beat apartheid. She said she never seen anybody but Black Americans fight for freedom in modern day history. True story. And they fighting for freedoms that they already got. Civil rights have been fought for and won, and some of these people still addicted to it for profit and relevancy. Democrats want more immigrants because they want their votes. Of course, Democrats are slimes. Democrats don't do shit for the people. They do stuff for votes and their own supremacy because they are the real racists in this country. And they keep Black people in this real sneak shift mindset. And that's where the immigrant Blacks, they're smarter. And they set the trend too, because a lot of immigrant Blacks, they're conservative. So they understand which voting decision needs to be made to make sure the taxes stay low and that you're not cutting into my small business on some dumb shit. And so that's where, again, I side with the immigrant Blacks on, the ability to be able to come in here into this country and actualize quicker than a ADOS Black or even a Native Black. Because a lot of these Native American Blacks, I'm sorry, I don't just see a whole lot of, can somebody tell me, the greatness of all these Native American Blacks and how it differs from people who were slaves? Because I just don't see a lot of Native American type Blacks just super excelling in everything beyond any other Black in this country. But they feel like they supreme because they've been here. Democrats want more immigrants because and Black people don't realize this too. And at the end of the day, I think Blacks make up about 40 million of 330 million people in this country, right? And you think about the fact that, of that 40 million, a lot of those people are not eligible voters for a variety of different reasons, right? So let's just say that within the Black segment of America, you have about 27% of eligible voters, right? And then of that 27%, you still have to make sure that all of those people vote, which they won't, right? So dwindle it down to the people that probably won't even show up and vote. And now you at about 25% maybe of Blacks who are actually going out and participating in the voting process, where you can bring in a whole bunch of Latinos. And here's the thing, Democrats have continuously had to exploit Black people to get them to show up and vote vicariously through public lynchings, right? They inflame Black people. They use their past, talk about slavery again. Oh yeah, remind them of slavery and civil rights, even though all that shit is over, and that's how they clutch on Black people's minds, right? They remind them of this, these pains and these transgressions. And all the while, right, they're filling their parties up with immigrant Blacks. Look at the Democratic Party. Look at a lot of those Blacks in there. And, it's even down to some of these higher up Blacks, they all got immigrant names. And so they understand that the Native Black population that keep allowing them to leverage them, they understand that they're a lost cause and they're way too expensive to that. They was damn it. Number one, Blacks got Trump into office in the first damn place because we did not like Hillary Clinton. We didn't like her ugly ass. So some of us did not show up to vote, which got Trump into the office. Black people did not show up for Hillary like that. We didn't like her. And then Trump gets in, and this was devastation because here's the thing. The Green New Deal was supposed to go down. Hillary Clinton was supposed to roll that shit out. Honestly, all this Marxism and shit that you're seeing right now and all this radical shit that the Democrats are doing, they're playing catch up because Trump should not have won. And Trump actually thwarted their planning. He set them back. And so, a lot of this crazy shit that's happening in America right now that everybody want to be addicted to their emotions instead of their logic to pay attention to. I won't say everybody, a lot of people. Yeah, it's not going to benefit black people at all. What they do, pop us a big ass statue of George Floyd. Like, I don't desire to go see that damn thing. I don't, and this is no disrespect to George Floyd, but let's get this shit together. Black people should have been outright like, bitch, get this shit out of our face. You give us a big ass 700 whatever fucking statue of a man with a knee on his neck, and you trying to make him another beacon of struggle for black people to remember. George Floyd was a sacrifice. He was a sacrifice. And a lot of people got paid off of that sacrifice, and the Democrats got what they needed. But let's bring it on home. We should not be worshiping George Floyd. We should not be even accepting that mockery of black ignorance, which is and them using George Floyd to project that crap. Just like they use Gwen Berry to make some symbolic statement so that the liberal can get a little picture so that they can display how much black people hate America. Black people didn't ask for the statue of George Floyd. White liberals did that. That's what Malcolm X warned us about. And that's the thing, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, man, these people, it's like people don't want to listen. They don't want to listen to the right history. They keep throwing Martin Luther King at motherfuckers, and motherfuckers ain't checking for Malcolm X and studying Brother Malcolm and the shit that he was saying. He actually got his ass killed too, but he was on some real shit. He could not stand the white liberals. He couldn't stand them. And now I understand why, because they are committed to the black struggle. They're committed to the black struggle. And then what they do is they get black people who are able to be paid to be committed to the black struggle and tout that shit, race peddle. That's why I said I look at HBCUs as incubators for the next generation of race peddlers. I would never want my kids to go to a HBCU, ever. If you want to talk about indoctrination station, send your black kid to a HBCU. That is like writing struggle all over them. Critical theory, all that shit. My kids, I graduated from a technology school and actually had some people throw shade on me about graduating from a technological university. It's like, bitch, I'm a critical thinker. You're the one who's fucking addicted to racism and civil rights that have been fought for and won. Fuck out of here with that. Just like they using the track star for Olympics is all a scam. Now, why was that a scam? Because she smoked weed. That was her decision. My thing is, I don't feel like, unless she said something else, because I stopped following the story, but I felt like Sha'Carri Richardson actually owned up for that decision that she made, and the liberal media and their little liberal blacks, they're the ones who tried to exploit her situation and say that it was racism. Am I wrong, or did she say something else that tried to make it racist? Uh-oh, did I lose it? Because I had to plug my power in. Did she say something else that was alluding to the fact that the decision was racist? Because it seemed like she took it like a champ. I was actually pretty proud of her. I was like, screw you to all the liberals who want to use this. Oh my gosh, she's black. She's trying. Oh, let her smoke weed. It's like, bitch, okay, listen to me. Yes, we know that weed is not a performance enhancing drug. Okay. But them rules been there. You know what I mean? She knew what it was. Unfortunately, she made that decision and she owned up to it. But the liberals want everything to be racist because, especially liberal white people, they can't even sleep at night knowing that black struggle does not exist. Liberal whites are so addicted to black struggle. It's like, oh my God, if I was a liberal white, I'd be like, oh my God, if the black struggle didn't exist, I have to look at myself and accept the fact that I'm screwed up. But because there's somebody who's doing worse than me and always will, I feel justification being the social justice warrior. I love people. they tried to bring Michael Phelps as a cop out. Man, and the thing is with that is you couldn't even use Michael Phelps, idiots, because to me, it's all about the timing of your mistake. It's all about the timing of your mistake. She had bad timing when she made that mistake. Michael Phelps had time to be suspended. And that's what people like to deflect from because they're so damn emotional instead of rational and looking at shit objectively. You won't look at shit emotion like Michael Phelps. I'm like, man, if I was Michael Phelps, I'd be like, excuse me, as a advocate of marijuana, on my off site, please keep my name out your mouth. Because that ain't got shit to do with me. And that ain't even the same situation y'all talking about. It's like black people, some of us, we just get addicted to ignorance. And that's why I be team the African Caribbean sometimes. I do. Sometimes I do be team them because it's like in terms of their rationality, I have to be team their thinking. I can't be addicted to the native black struggle thinking. So I embrace all my brothers and sisters at the end of the day, I guess. Because I like the thinking of our immigrant blacks. I embrace the thinking of our immigrant blacks. And for the most part, I will say this too. And when you talk about these serious discussions that are happening in the black community today, because these immigrant blacks feel so lumped up, I guess, with our culture, our community, I find that they're the ones that are really facilitating the discussions on how to improve the black community for the most part. I'm listening to a lot of these Haitian brothers, and dang, I never paid attention to them, but they are very fun. I'm listening to like all these different like brothers and sisters from like islands and different places, and they're talking about the problems of the black community. You still got some of your native blacks in there too trying to fight the old good fight, but I find that a lot of these foreigner blacks are more trying to reconcile the mindset of the black community than we are. She owned up to it, but people want to pretend she's upset about it. Yeah, I'm like Sha'Carri Richardson, like, and I don't know, maybe she has said something else to allude to the fact that she's upset, but she seemed like she took accountability, moved on, and that was it. So, anyways, you guys, we're coming up on an hour. Thank you guys so much, Tiff. I will try to make sure that I will not get in this conversation anytime soon because I don't want you emotional, honey. I don't. But you know what? You enlighten me too. Your perspective enlightened me to some things that I've never considered, and I do want to do more homework on the statistics of immigrants that come from South Africa versus other countries, because I think that would be an interesting sort of look at, and I guess I don't really know what I'd be trying to prove here, that South Africans took back their country, or province, and so now they is South Africa a country or province? Man, I have a stupid American moment. Sorry, guys. But South Africans did do their thing, and I don't really recall seeing a lot of South African people. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I don't recall seeing a lot of South African migrants. I've seen Nigeria. Where's some other place? I don't even know. Cameroon. I met somebody from Cameroon one time, but I really never really met a lot of Africans outside of World Fest. But they weren't South Africans. They were people from other places. So next time we have African World Fest here in Detroit, I'm definitely going to be asking people where they from, what you do, how you came here, whatever, and get to know some of my African fellow Americans a little bit better, because I, to be honest with you, I don't know much about African culture, just like I don't know much about Caribbean culture, because it's not really my culture. But I embrace other cultures, and I'm open to learning about them. And I can always find the beauty in other cultures. but that's just me. So hopefully this was an interesting perspective and a fun conversation. Not so much for you, Tiff, but you were good, champ, though, about sharing your opinions. But you know, regardless of how you identify yourself, whichever black group, black designation, if you will, you associate yourself with, I would like to challenge, our people, though, to at least get a hold of, our perceptions of each other, our understanding of each other, because these things are being leveraged. Black people are leveraged in more ways than one, leveraged in more ways than one. And sometimes they're leveraged to divide, sometimes they're leveraged to keep people marginalized or ignorant. So just, as we think about the fact that a lot of us are being summed up as a collective just because we look the same, even though we reject, being associated with, any respective group, just understand that at least we have to figure out how to get a handle over on the conversation of black people in this country, because again, we're all being lumped up together. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.